Hey, lovely viewers, welcome to our channel Grey's Anatomy Official. The Grey's Anatomy season that quietly became one of its best, the longest-running primetime medical drama Grey's Anatomy, has been airing for 22 seasons now. Fans who were there during the first years claim the show went downhill after Christina's, Sandra Oh's, exit or Derek's, Patrick Dempsey's, death. Even with the new batch of interns taking the spotlight, newer fans see the latest seasons as underwhelming at best. Arguments can be made with respect to the show's quality over time, but the truth is newer seasons have featured notable highlights. Ever since Krista Vernoff returned to join Shonda Rhimes as co-showrunner in season 14, Grey's Anatomy went through a reinvention that produced thoroughly engaging storylines. But there's a specific point in which the show produced one of the best seasons of its modern era. In season 17, Grey Sloan Memorial had to face head-on the COVID-19 pandemic. Though at the time, it might have hit too close to home, it gave Grey's Anatomy a new meaning and purpose in the ever-changing landscape of medical TV dramas. Grey's Anatomy felt relevant once again in season 17. The COVID-19 pandemic turned the world upside down. Shutting everything down to prevent the spread of this new and deadly disease, humanity had to adapt to face this new reality. In entertainment, this meant shutting down productions of movies and TV shows, thus paralyzing the industry for the foreseeable future. When Grey's Anatomy was able to resume production, the big questions of what the doctors of Grey Sloan should do and how they should proceed were answered swiftly. Tackle the pandemic head-on. Thanks for watching this videos. Please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. By covering this delicate topic, season 17 of Grey's Anatomy made the show feel relevant once again. Whereas there was a long-standing tradition of showcasing catastrophe episodes every year, the entirety of season 17 covered a real and global crisis that the doctors seemed powerless to face. The stakes felt real once again, as the hospital had to adapt to new sanitary measures, while trying to keep its patients and staff safe. Still, when the topic was gloomy, the later episodes of the season managed to end on a high note, flashing forward to the introduction of the vaccines and finally being able to recover the sense of normalcy we live with today. Meredith's speech featured the return of several of Grey's Anatomy fan favorites. Meredith Grey, Ellen Pompeo, will never be exempt from catastrophes in her life. Whether personal or professional, she has always been on the brink of figurative or literal death. In season 17, she was one of the early cases of COVID-19 the hospital had to treat. This brought the controversial beach into the show's narrative. Love it or hate it, this metaphysical space was an escape from the dark reality both the audience and the hospital were facing at the time. This became our safe space, a maskless and bright place where happy reunions simply happened. Thus, season 17 featured fan-favorite and long-awaited returns in one of the few ways that made sense in the show's narrative. This was the precise moment to bring back Chyler Leigh's Lexi for one final heartfelt chat with her sister. Lexi's comeback also brought Eric Dane's Mark, as a sign that they had found a happy ending after all. TR Knight's George strolled by to talk about how his death affected Meredith's life. Last, but not least, Meredith saw Derek once again at this fateful moment. Seeing the power couple reunited was a tender callback to their better times. All of them encourage Meredith to keep fighting and return to her family. And though they were constructs of her own comatose mind, their appearances felt like a hug in the direst of times. Grey's Anatomy, season 17 features the last impactful deaths the show has seen. Grey's Anatomy's tradition of featuring impactful deaths practically stopped with season 17. It makes sense, considering it'd be hard to top their emotional punch. The first was Elena Bailey, Bianca F. Taylor, Miranda's, Chandra Wilson, mother. After becoming infected with COVID-19 at her nursing home, Elena's chances of survival were minimal, because the elderly were at higher risk. Grey's Anatomy faithfully depicted the frustrating protocols that this catastrophe brought forth. The people who represented our support system were fated to die in isolation during this harrowing time. By showing this through Miranda's resignation and Elena's final moments, the series honored the victims of the pandemic. The second victim that this season claimed was Giacomo Gianniotti's Andrew DeLuca. He died a hero, because he was responsible for the apprehension of a human trafficker, and his goodbye was one of the most heartfelt and heartbreaking moments in the modern era of Grey's Anatomy. Meeting Meredith at her beach, he thanked her for the time they shared and for pushing him to get to know himself. The ambivalence of having to choose between life and death is elevated by DeLuca's reunion with his mother. His bittersweet farewell represents an ideal welcome to the afterlife, and not everyone has gotten this courtesy in Grey's Anatomy. In retrospect, Season 17 of Grey's Anatomy has quietly become one of the best of its modern era. More recent outings have struggled to recapture the emotional impact that this season had. With Pompeo's departure as a regular in Season 19, this could also be considered the last time Meredith was front and center as the main focus of the show. Since the series is nowhere near its end, hopefully it will recapture this gut-wrenching feeling once again. Grey's Anatomy doc shares his real-life health diagnosis. James Pickens Jr. has played Dr. Richard Webber for 22 seasons on the Shondaland hit Grey's Anatomy. He can easily converse in medical terminology and counsel someone with a life-threatening diagnosis. But what happens when the TV doctor becomes the patient? Pickens found out when he heard, "You have prostate cancer." This news didn't come out of left field. It's not the kind of news anyone wants to hear, but to be honest, prostate cancer has run through my family. My father had it. He had a lot of brothers, several of them had it. I would have been surprised if I hadn't gotten it, said the 73-year-old actor. I've got a 90-year-old first cousin, who's still alive. Actually, he had it. His son has it. A couple of his brothers had it. No one, as far as I know, has succumbed to it. According to the Prostate Cancer Foundation, 1 in 6 black men still develop prostate cancer and are more than twice as likely to die from the disease. The National Cancer Institute says that prostate cancer is highly heritable. Inherited factors cause up to 60% of prostate cancer risk. Risk factors for prostate cancer include age, a family history of prostate cancer and other cancers, genetics, and ancestry, such as West African ancestry. You can take a risk quiz here. Because of his family history, Pickens began PSA testing early. Pickens' dedication to his health may have helped catch his prostate cancer early. I started getting my annual physical 34 years ago. And I started my PSA testing when I was 41, I'm 73 now. My urologist said. Because you were so diligent in that piece of your health, it was to your advantage. We were able to catch it so early because you were being tested. Pickens' diagnosis. In 2024, the actor went for his annual physical, which included checking his PSA levels. He was referred to a urologist, who told him his numbers were still in the normal range, but they needed to check again in a year. I went back in January, and when my PSA numbers came back, my primary said, "Yeah, you know what? It's ticked up some more. I want to send you back to the urologist." Pickens said. The urologist looked at him and said, "Yeah, there's something here. Let's do an MRI," which we did, and it revealed, as he called it, something suspicious. They scheduled a biopsy, which revealed a tumor. A PET scan showed that the cancer had not spread and was isolated to one quadrant of the prostate. His treatment choice. The Grey star had 2 options, radiation, or he could elect to do a radical prostatectomy. After weighing the options, he chose the latter. His radical prostatectomy was done robotically by 2 urologists. He stayed a day in the hospital afterward. We caught it really early, and so they thought that would be the best route to take. I do have a rare variant that you don't see very often. They wanted to on the side of caution and keep an eye on it, he said. It was rare enough that they wanted to make sure that they were crossing all the T's and dotting all their I's. But they hadn't seen one that was detected as early as mine. Why he's sharing his story. Pickens wants to remove the stigma that men have in talking about their health, especially prostate cancer. Where we are and how we view the medical community, especially as African American men, he points out. We know the history of that, and how far that goes back in terms of our trepidation about being tested, and getting something as simple as a physical. Years ago, the actor participated in a black barbershop men's health summit with Dick Gregory. The group targeted 50 cities to set up screenings at barbershops and offered free haircuts. In the process, they might get their blood pressure checked and brochures on prostate cancer and diabetes. He got the group to add his hometown, Cleveland, to the tour. We brought in a wonderful, bright, black physician out of the DC area and his team. And we identified 10 barbershops in the area where I lived. These brothers would come in and get a haircut, Pickens said. We were able to get a blood pressure test and put something in their hand. And in more than one case, we would run into brothers who had never had a physical. It's Movember, a time to talk about prostate cancer. If you have ever noticed men growing out their facial hair in November, they are probably doing so for Movember, in support of men's health. Among the major initiatives is prostate cancer. I recall when I was a kid, my dad was one of many brothers. I think he may have had 7, 8 brothers. But I know at least 4 or 5 were still alive when I was a kid. When one of them would fall ill, my dad would grow a mustache. And he'd grow a beard with it, Pickens said. I remember asking, very clearly, like it was yesterday. I said, "Dad, why are you growing your beard like that?" He said, "I'm growing it for my brother who was sick." So there was a cultural piece to it as well.